Hi, I want to talk very briefly about addressing burnout and chronic stress in conveyancing. And I've got no doubt that throughout the course of this program and throughout the course of other videos and trainings that you've had before, you've had lots of tips and tools on how to combat stress and to avoid burnout. Now, the question is, if we have access to all these tips and tools, to all these great strategies, why don't we do them? Or why don't we do them enough to actually make a big difference and to reduce the chronic stress and burnout that we're seeing within the profession? So that's what I want to talk about today, is just why aren't we doing it and what might we need to think about slightly differently so that we can actually implement some of these wonderful suggestions that are out there. So the first reason I think that we don't implement what we need to do in order to protect ourselves, to protect our mental health, and to reduce our stress is a belief that stress is just simply part and parcel of the job, something that we have to accept. We don't have a choice in the matter. It's just there. And if we're going to be in this career, if we're going to do this work, we have to accept that stress is just part of it. These are some of the things that we would see in ourselves if we are suffering from increasing stress levels and potentially burnout as well. We're looking at exhaustion, chronic tiredness, that almost no matter how much we rest, it's still there. A sense of overwhelm, of hopelessness sometimes, that no matter how hard we work, we're never going to be able to catch up. And when overwhelm really hits, we're not even able to prioritize effectively. We're not even able to think about what's most important, the order that we should do things in, when we should maybe reach out for help. And then we develop a mental distance, which is particularly tricky in this sort of work. We're often involved very closely with our clients and their hopes and their dreams and their fears, and needing to hold their hands through quite a scary and stressful process, arguably one of the biggest things they might go through in their lives. But whereas we want to have empathy and compassion and understanding, if we're getting closer and closer to burnout, what we find is we've got mental exhaustion, we have apathy instead of empathy, and we have compassion fatigue, which means we can't even listen to people and relate to them in the same way. And of course, even though we might have high volumes of cases and work to get through, our efficiency is hugely reduced, especially because we may be procrastinating or using up all our energy on a few things and then not having energy for the rest of the day. So we actually can't get through as much of the work as we want to. We might find that we're more snappy or more irritable with people that we work with or with our clients potentially, all of which don't help with the running of the day-to-day job. So why is it such a problem? Why is it such an issue in the sort of work that we do? Well, there's a few factors. It can be very high stress culture, very fast paced, high volume, high expectations. People want everything yesterday and they don't want to understand about why delays can happen and many things that are completely outside of our control. But we always want to go above and beyond. We want to go the extra mile. We want to show that we're dedicated and committed. We're often people pleasing and want to say yes to everyone, want to make all our clients happy, and we strive for that perfectionism. We want to get everything done today, even though in reality, we're never going to be able to get everything finished. We have difficulty switching off because the job is never done. There's always more we could do. But when we don't switch off, when we don't rest and recharge, then there's a direct impact on our efficiency, our productiveness, and what we're able to do and how we're able to relate to other people as well. Some additional risk factors that it's really important for us to be aware of because they will impact many of us. Many of us have this idea that we are a carer type. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we may be physically in the situation where we are, maybe raising young children. Maybe we're caught in the sandwich generation where we might have children to look after and parents that we may be carers for or other people that we may be caring for. But even outside of that traditionally caring role, we tend to have that type of personality where we want to look after people. We want to look after that upset and frightened client. I know I've had a lot of cases where I've dealt with little old ladies. They've been widowed, they've been in their house for 40 years. Their husband dealt with all of their finances and all of their house moves. They're afraid, they're alone. They don't know what the future holds. They don't understand the process. And the conveyancer might be the only person there holding their hand. And because we care about them and because we want them to feel that they can sleep at night and they don't have anything to worry about, we are constantly going above and beyond to make sure that they feel safe. There's this fulfillment myth as well. There's this idea that, oh, helping others is what we need to do. You know, it's good that we put ourselves out and that we go the extra mile because we're doing something good and we're helping other people. Now, that's not untrue, but what does that lead us to do? And how hard does that drive us sometimes? Then we've got industry standards. You know, what is expected? It is expected that this is a fast-paced, high-volume area of work. It is expected that we'll go above and beyond very often. And sometimes we don't stop to measure that. We don't stop to look at the reasonableness of that. How unreasonable are the demands that we are putting on ourselves potentially? So what does this look like? What actually happens to us when we don't take proper account of how we're looking after ourselves? What you can see here at the side of the screen is the stress scale. So at the bottom there, we are calm, we are in control, we are not stressed, our stress levels are very low. We might be enjoying our work, we might find it easy to switch off. And then we come further up into what you may know as the fight or flight response. So the stress levels are just being elevated a little bit. We might be starting to avoid things. We might have what I call tunnel vision, which means that everything seems important, everything seems urgent. We struggle to prioritize at that point and to think as effectively as we could. And then we've got, I guess, what you could call full out burnout or depression, where we go into the freeze mode. So we sort of completely withdraw. We're not really communicating anymore. We're less engaged. We get very disengaged and unmotivated, and we start to wonder whether we can stay in this career anymore. Can we keep working like this? So how do we get from those low stress levels up to the high stress levels? Well, these are some of the things we're doing. We're saying yes to everything. We're working harder and harder to try and get it all done. We feel the need to constantly prove ourselves, and we don't look after ourselves. We think we can just keep going without stopping to take care of us. Then to get further up in the stress ladder, we start, what I say, rewriting our values. So what we thought was important to us, maybe our family, maybe our clients, maybe doing a good job, suddenly gets distorted. And we convince ourselves that the only way to do all this is to work harder and harder. And if we don't get it all done, we feel that sense of shame and guilt. Well, everybody else is doing it. I should be able to do it. I'm some sort of failure. I can't cope. It's a problem with me, not a problem with the work and the industry and the environment. So what I want you to think about after listening to this video, and maybe take it into some of the other topics and sessions that you're looking at, is think about what it is you're telling yourself about why you can't look after your own well-being. What could you do differently if you took even 10 or 15 minutes a day? And I know that can be hard to find, but if you started to ring fence 5 minutes for a while and then 10 minutes, maybe up to 15 minutes a day, what could you do differently? What could life look like differently if you could reduce your stress levels and take a little bit more care of your mental health? You'd be able to reverse a lot of those symptoms of chronic stress and burnout. So what might that look like practically? Well, first of all, you might need to think about how much rest you're getting. Do you need some more rest to conserve your energy? A great example of this is that often we might finish everything that we need to do in the evening with work. Maybe we've got a young family and we're getting them to bed. And then we think, well, now I deserve to sit down and watch my favorite television program. But actually, is that what we really need, or would an early night be better? Or if we've got a lot of work to do, sometimes I think we keep working and keep working when we're getting tireder and tireder. Whereas if we got an early night and maybe got up early the next day, would that be a better way to do it? So think about ways to increase and protect your energy levels, because it's our own personal energy levels that get us through what we need to do and to help us make better decisions about our mental health and well-being. Delegate anything and everything you can. You may be able to do that in a work sense, but you may be able to do it with some of the things at home. Can you get the shopping delivered? Can somebody else take something off your plate, even just for a little while? How do you find your peace and calm? Even small snippets of it. Is it a quick walk into your garden? Is it listening to your favourite song to give you a little bit of a boost? They don't have to be things that take a long time. What are those small things that could help reset your stress levels? Think about setting stronger boundaries. This is very easy to say and very hard to do. And that's why thinking about why it's important and the difference that it would make to us, to our families, to our careers, to our ability to do great work if we set stronger boundaries around what we say yes to and what we say no to. What does the future look like? Think about what we want it to look like in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, and use that to help you with the strength to set some of those boundaries. We might need to think about why it's so important to prioritize what we need, even though it might be so foreign and such a foreign idea to many of us to think about prioritizing ourselves. And then at the bottom here, we've got setting solid routines. Early delegation. As soon as we realize that we could delegate something, even a small part of a task, what could we delegate out? What are our support systems, our peers, our friends, our networks? Because a problem shared really is a problem halved. So thinking about who we could talk to. Mind strengthening exercises. You'll no doubt have lots of examples of those things. Meditation, mindfulness, practicing gratitude, doing some journaling. They're all life-changing things. They were life-changing for me 10 years ago when I went from chronic stress and came out of that. But we actually need to decide to make the time for those things first. We need to decide that we are worth it and that our health is worth it. And how we show up for our families, our friends, and our clients and our colleagues, we have to decide that it's worth it first. So I hope that this has given you something to think about in terms of thinking about how you could approach things differently. What are those beliefs that make you believe you just have to keep working harder and that you can't take that time, even a small amount of time, for yourself? So look out for those ways, those support networks that you can tap into. What are your peers doing that you could have a discussion with them, maybe share some ideas and understand what works for them? And then some awareness and honesty as well. That's so important. We have to understand that we're not alone in this. We're not a failure if we can't do everything. We're not superheroes as much as we try to be. And it doesn't mean that we have failed. We might just need a little bit of help from someone else. So I hope you find that useful. My name's Hannah Beko, and I hope that you find the rest of this series really useful as well.